The following is a program of the Santa Barbara County Education Office. To learn more, visit sbceo.org.
Hi, I'm Susan Salcido, Santa Barbara County Superintendent of Schools, and I am so delighted and truly honored to introduce our guest today, Michele Frantz, who's a first grade teacher at Joe Nightingale Elementary School in the Orcutt Union School District and the 2020 Santa Barbara County Teacher of the Year. Michele, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited to have you share with the viewers today about the person behind the Teacher of the Year, and we'll talk about you in your classroom, in your school and district. But what I love to do is start with your past, to talk about your childhood and where you grew up. So let's start there. Where were you born and raised?
So I was born in Downey, California, which is a small city in the Los Angeles County. Spent my first 5 years really close with family. I lived next door to my godparents, across the street from my grandparents. But when I was 5, my family moved 30 miles away to Fountain Valley, really in an effort to give my brother and sister and I just the best opportunities for schools. So I went to Cox Elementary, which at the time was a kindergarten through 8th grade school. And 6th grade year, my district switched to the middle school model, and so for 7th and 8th grade I went to Masuda Middle School and then went on to Fountain Valley High School before moving on to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo.
Oh, fantastic. And let's talk about Cal Poly San Luis Obispo in a moment, but describe to us what you were like as a student.
So I would say that as a student, I was not necessarily always the smartest one or the ones that the academics came easily to, but I was willing to work hard and put in the effort that it took to do well and take advantage of those opportunities that were given to me.
So moved from sounds like a smaller town, Downey, to Fountain Valley, and the district was growing and changing, so you kind of merged with lots of changes. And I understand that beyond academics, you were really involved in school, both school activities, but also athletics. Do you want to say a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I grew up playing soccer and played through elementary school, junior high, and into high school. Had a wonderful experience playing soccer in high school, made some great friendships, had fabulous coaches that just really poured into us, and it's kind of my first time to really kind of step up and shine, and so that was also very a great experience for me.
And you played in as an adult as well.
I did.
Yeah,
there were
still do years, probably.
No, I hung up my cleats a while ago, but I did. I played as an adult. I played on a team with actually some fellow teachers.
Great.
And then when I started having kids, it was a little bit more difficult to find time for that.
Right. I understand you're still on the soccer field, though. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that in a moment. So after high school, you just said you went to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. How did you select that college, and what was your major?
Well, my parents, I had applied to several schools, and my parents and I took a road trip and went up and visited the campus at UC Santa Cruz. And on the way back down the coast, we stopped by Cal Poly, which I had applied to but hadn't heard from yet, and fell in love with the area and the campus. And I just remember feeling when we got there that this is home. This is very comfortable. I could totally see myself there. And so when I got my acceptance letter, I was super excited and really eager to go.
And Michele, I understand that you in your family were the first person to go to college. How was that experience for your family? This is it for us.
It was a big deal, absolutely. To get accepted to a university and to be able to go straight out of high school, it was big for all of us, and felt big for me. In fact, moving away was hard. I remember calling my family several times and saying, I just want to come home. And my dad kept saying, you can come home and go to, you can go to Cal State Fullerton, or you can go somewhere closer to home. And my mom in the background saying, no, Itzy, she needs to stay up there. She can do this. This is what she needs. And so I'm, really grateful for that opportunity.
Sounds like you always had the support and a little push.
Always, always.
And your parents are still definite people in your lives today that are such influential people. So, and I really want to talk family as well. But let's go back to college for a minute. Okay. So we're tracing that path. And Cal Poly, were you, did you declare a major? What was your major?
Yeah, Cal Poly's always been impacted, and so you have to declare a major. Okay. And so, but going back to really when I was thinking about what career I wanted, I had a conversation with my dad, who had gone off to Vietnam in the Navy and returned to the field that my grandfather was in, which was sheet metal. But I always knew that he would have loved to have gone to school and maybe gone into architecture or engineering, but that just didn't happen. And so we sat down when I was in high school, and I was looking at college and thinking about what I wanted to do. And he said, Michelle, you get to choose what you do when you grow up. And he said, just make sure whatever it is that you enjoy waking up and going to work in the morning. And so I thought long and hard about that. And I knew that a life, with students and working with kids was really what would just fill my life with joy, and it has. Yeah. So I was a liberal studies major at Cal Poly, and graduated and was part of a master's program that was a joint effort between the Lucia Mar School District and Cal Poly. So my first year with my credential, I team taught in a classroom. I tutored students in second grade and in first grade, and then went to school at night and got my master's.
Wow. Not only a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, and really used your credentialing and all that experience right away. And Lucia Mar is a school district in the San Luis Obispo County. And it sounds like, again, your father, who made his way into your application packet, for the Teacher of the Year as such an influence. But what a life lesson that he taught about, perhaps he himself didn't feel like he had a choice, but he really wanted you to have a complete buffet of choices to say, what is it that you want? And you chose teaching.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like, great life lesson, and something that as a parent, that I can pass on to my kids that is equally as important for them.
How did you go from Cal Poly and Lucia Mar to Joe Nightingale Elementary School?
I had student taught in the Orcutt School District and San Luis, but when it was time to apply, that was one of the districts that I was familiar with, and so I applied and was hired at Joe Nightingale back in 1995. So I've been there ever since.
So 24 years you just completed at the same school, same district. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's incredible. You've seen lots of teachers, you've seen lots of administrators, and you've taught in several different grades, about 3 different grades. Tell the viewers what grades you have taught.
So I started in second grade, and then the next year went down to first. Spent a couple of years at first grade, and then when class size reduction had hit, I decided to go down to kindergarten. And I shared a classroom with Kate McInerney, who's currently my principal, for I think 7 years. I taught the morning kindergarten class, and she taught the afternoon kindergarten class. And then there was a time that we would overlap. But it was just a great time for me to learn and grow, and gain confidence as a teacher, collaborating with somebody else. And she was amazing.
That's incredible. 24 years later, you must see some of your students back in the community as adults now.
Yes.
Do they look exactly the same, just taller?
You know what? It's really funny. I do see them all the time. In fact, my kids kind of joke about that. Was that a former student? And yes, it was. But I see their little face in there. In fact, I ran into somebody who was in the second grade class my first year teaching at Nightingale, and we were standing in line, and he had this dog, and I was talking to the dog, and then I looked up at him and I said, "Is your name Aaron?" And he said, "Yes." And I said, I said, I think I was your second grade teacher. And I said, Miss Trejo. And he goes, yes. And he goes, how did you know? And I said, it was your eyes. I can see your little face in there. And he was like, oh my gosh. But yeah, so it happens a lot.
I love that. That's very, very special. So outside of your classrooms, different grade levels that you've taught, you also have teamed up professionally with other teachers, and you're part of different learning communities and groups. Can you say a little bit about the professional teams that you're working with?
Yeah, so, well, it really all started back in about 2011 when I stepped out of the classroom for a couple of years and became a TOSA, which is a teacher on special assignment. And I started working with our English language development program through our district, as well as our Title I program. At the time, there were two schools. It was Joe Nightingale that was a Title I school, as well as Olga Reed School. So I started working closely with those staffs and our district-wide kindergarten team. And it was a few years of being able to really grow and learn myself, but then work alongside other teachers and educators and help students from a different capacity.
Right.
Yeah.
Teaching in a classroom, you're really thinking about how students learn. Teaching alongside adults, you think about how adults learn well.
Right.
So it's a real, it's similar and different at the
It is.
same time, right?
Absolutely.
And still impacting students. While you were a TOSA, a teacher on special assignment, just a big life, huge life change occurred. And let's pause and talk about that. It's a really important period of your life, and I think you can share some really significant messages to viewers. So what happened?
So I, during those first couple of years as a TOSA, I was really thinking that I would go into administration. I was, starting to work with adults and really kind of changing education from a different role. And I thought I would be going into education or administration. And then in June of 2013, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And it really changed everything for me. It was kind of came out of left field. There was no history in my family. I didn't know anyone that had ever had breast cancer. So it was a year of treatment, of chemotherapy, and ultimately a mastectomy, ups and downs. But coming out of that, I was different. And the way that I view the world is different. The way that I see my purpose is different. And I remained in that TOSA role for a couple of years, but I just started having this real pull back to the classroom. And, I thought about, what do I want in life? Why am I here? And it really comes down to making sure that we love each other and that we take care of each other. And I knew that I wanted to be back in the classroom to do that. So be back with students and to take what I had learned and to really put it into practice. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
You really, it says, you said it changed your worldview, your perspective, your life view. I'm sure that impacted your thinking as a mother and wife, as well as a teacher and educator. Yeah, in all facets.
Absolutely.
And Michele, would you mind sharing how did you discover that you had breast cancer? Was it a regular visit?
No, it was actually, I just finished up my educational leadership course, so life was really busy. 3 kids, working as a TOSA. I was going to classes and I felt a lump, but I kind of dismissed it for a while. And finally I thought, you know what, I'm due for my annual and I'm going to go in and I mentioned it to my doctor and she didn't think much of it, but she said, let's go ahead and let's do a baseline mammogram. And so we did, and I got a call back and another call back and was told that, yeah, you have breast cancer. So it was one of those things, it was a life lesson of, we always have to take care of ourselves and be advocates for ourselves. And as busy as we are, especially as moms and as wives and as teachers, that we have to make time for ourselves.
Yeah. That's really important. And that worldview, perspective, change, and we talked about your family earlier. Many of us got a chance to meet your family when you were named the 2020 Santa Barbara County Teacher of the Year. I want to talk about your family now. So we got a chance to meet your mother, your father, your husband, 2 of your 3 children.
Right.
So you tell us about your family. You can name them, say where they are, and what did that life change? How did it change the way that you mommed and wived and were a daughter?
Oh, everything. Well, I have been so blessed to have just an incredible family and support growing up. And during that time of treatment, my parents, even though they were in Southern California, they made it up regularly to help me through treatment and just have always been there for me. And I have to say, my mom and dad are 2 of the most generous, selfless people you could ever meet. I have a brother, and his boys are down in Southern California, and my sister as well and her family. So they're all still down there, but still really a big part of our lives up here too. My husband Mark and I are celebrating our 20th wedding anniversary this summer.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And he's an incredible support as well. I'm super lucky to be married to such a great partner and dad to our 3 kids. We have 3.
Okay.
So there's Max, who's 17. He's going to be a junior at Rigetti next year. And Mia, who's 15. She'll be a sophomore. And then our baby Miles, who is going to be 12 and will spend his last year at Joe Nightingale this year as a 6th grader. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Have all 3 children gone through Joe Nightingale?
They have.
Did they have you as a teacher?
No, never.
Okay.
You know what? At the time, I was teaching kindergarten, and I thought it would be a little bit more difficult on them than me to see mom and have to share me. So
right.
Yeah, they got
a decision.
Yes, and they had some other fabulous teachers.
That's
there.
great.
Yeah.
That's great. And so earlier we talked about soccer, and I hinted that you're still on the field in different ways because I think some of your children play soccer. Do they all?
So they all have at times.
Okay.
I coached my son, Max, at one point. Currently, I'm the manager of my daughter's club soccer team. So it keeps me on the field and just, kind of present in there still. And I still get to live in that world. Watch the World Cup right now.
Yes.
So, yeah.
That's great. Well, thank you for sharing about your family. They're incredible people. I think your husband would say very similar things about you in terms of being very lucky for 20 years plus. Yes. So 2020 Santa Barbara County Teacher of the Year. Michele, share with us how you felt when you heard that you were chosen, selected, and named. That is who you now are for the 2020 year.
I was a little bit in shock, I think, when I found out that I was the 2020 Teacher of the Year. Stephen Keithley, I had seen a text and a message from him just as the bell was ringing, and so I thought, I'll get to him after school when the students are gone, and then a few minutes later, my principal Kate McInerney came in and big smile on her face, and she said, "You have a phone call in my office," and I thought, okay, I don't know which way this is going to go. So I walked in and I answered, and Stephen shared with me the news, and I was just speechless. And I think I probably said wow 3 or 4 times. And thank you. But just truly, truly honored to be named the Teacher of the Year for our county. I had the opportunity as a TOSA to work with teachers throughout my district, as well as throughout our entire county, through professional developments and different networks that I was a part of. And I know the high caliber of teachers that we have. And so to be able to just be named and recognized amongst them is truly an honor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Well, for the viewers, I want to make sure everybody knows that it's a really extensive process. There's someone who's nominating you, but there are multiple people who contribute to the nomination packet. Interviews and visits in the classroom by multiple people. So the selection is truly of the highest caliber. And as you are thinking about moving forward and representing the teachers in Santa Barbara County, is there a particular message that you want to convey to the community on behalf of teachers?
I will just share that what we do is hugely important. And we have dedicated teachers in classrooms throughout our county that are forging relationships with kids and making sure that they are reaching their potential. And it is truly humbling to be able to represent them. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, as we've just heard, you have a very full family life, you have a very full teaching life and professional life, and probably other pulls as well. How do you find balance or relaxation? Is there such a thing for you? And how do you do that? I mean, let's be real.
Right. Yes, I do.
Okay, good.
But I think part of that, is that I'm learning is not just about what I do in terms of relaxing, but also how I set up my life. And so, making sure that I am trying to find a balance and some boundaries on like my time, for example. I have been guilty of saying yes to too many things, too many worthy causes, but learning to be able to say, here's my limit because I want to give to my relationships and make sure that I'm honoring those, making sure that I'm finding time to spend with my husband, that I am able to have time for prayer and to be active and involved in my kids' life. So, we, as a family, we love to camp.
Nice.
We dirt bike ride.
Oh, fun.
And we do hiking. So, those kinds of things are hugely important, as well as spending time with friends and laughing and, just connecting and making sure that we are getting filled as well.
I love that. I love that you're just so mindful of it. It's not easy to get it every day during the school year, but it's important to have that as a goal and reach for it.
Absolutely.
And recharge and refuel.
And I think for people coming into this field or any field of service really where we pour into others and we give of ourselves, we have to make sure that we try to find some balance and know what's important to us and fill our cup.
Well, let's speak about when you talked about people coming into this field, because after 24 years of teaching experience, you have an enormous bank of experience that you could share with somebody who might be thinking about being a teacher. And we certainly want to have incredible, excellent teachers in our field. So if there's a viewer today thinking, you know what, I'm thinking about going into the teaching field, what advice might you have for them? Or what words of wisdom?
Well, I would say absolutely come join us. We need great educators, people that are willing to invest and pour into really our future. The students that are in our classrooms, they are our greatest gift and our greatest hope, to help us through problems that we are going to be facing. And they are worthy of our time. They are worthy of our efforts and our love and compassion, and they need us. They need you.
Good advice. So let's turn the table and think about or talk about maybe someone who's given you advice. And one of the things I've learned about people who are successful, and I count you as one of those people for sure, is that they've really had mentors in their lives. And I know your parents are two of them. But professionally speaking, is there anyone that you would think back and say, yeah, that person really was one of the many individuals that really mentored me and inspired me? Who is it, and what did he or she teach you?
Well, I will have to be honest. There have been so many. Going back to, my master's program, Dr. Susan McBride was so supportive of all of us and helping us to grow and become great educators. But then all along the way, there have been incredible classroom teachers that have shared their wisdom and their knowledge and their expertise to help me grow and refine my craft. And when I was thinking about going into administration, I had great administrators that, just poured into me and, would pull me along aside and say, okay, this is for your learning and, think about this. So just incredible educators. But Dr. Holly Eads is one person in particular that I will forever be grateful to. She was a principal at Nightingale for several years, but the first person who really gave me the opportunity to step out of my role in the classroom and as a leader, but really she saw things in me that I didn't even see in myself, and just encouraged me to take a risk and to grow myself and my skills as a leader. And Yeah, I will forever be grateful to her. She's always had an open door, and I still go seek advice from her.
That's great. Holly Eads, Dr. Holly Eads is an assistant superintendent for Orcutt Union School District.
Yes.
Sounds like the approach she provided for you, which was seeing something in you, didn't necessarily even see in yourself and kind of pushing you to grow, is exactly what you do for your students in your classroom. Really see in them their abilities and really grow their capacity over the years. It's very exciting. And Michele, as a professional, as somebody who's constantly wanting to grow and learn and improve, are there particular ways in which you hone your teaching leadership, your teaching kind of just what you do so that you can improve each day and year?
I think one of the things is to just be open to new ideas, and we are filled with incredible teachers and leaders that have great perspectives and ideas. So being open to that, to participating on leadership teams is a great way to practice that leadership skill. But also, I would say just to continually seek out new learning. So to read podcasts, YouTube, find people that are moving us forward and to learn from them, and then to adapt and to bring that back into the classroom.
I love that hunger for learning and finding it in different ways. It's not just one way, but multiple. So let's think about our students now. You have first grade now, and as they keep going on, they are graduating high school, going on to college and career.
Yes.
When you think about what students need today to be really successful by the time they graduate high school and go on to either college or career, what are some of the bullet points you think, you know what, this is what students really need to leave school knowing and being able to do?
When I was a TOSA, I had the opportunity to really expand my understanding of what it is that we do and the world that is changing around us at such a rapid rate. And one of the things that was shared was that, we are preparing students for a future that we really can't even say what it's going to look like. And so it's less about teaching them any one thing in particular, but more about a skill set. And so the 4 C's, which are collaboration, communication, creativity, and critical thinking, I think those are all incredibly important skills to be really building within our students, as well as the idea of having a growth mindset, that idea that failure is not failure. Failure can help us grow, and we can learn from it, and then also to take risks, to just try new things. Even if we aren't successful, we can learn from it, and we can become better, and affect the world in great ways.
I love that. Great advice from our 2020 County Teacher of the Year. I'd like to close our segment with an opportunity for you to share some words with your first grade students that you've just had, and they're now at summer vacation, and the first grade students that are coming in. What are some words that you'd like to share with your first graders?
Oh, you are special, and you are loved, and we need you. For my former first grade students would be, I miss you. I hope you're having a great summer and reading. And then for the ones coming in, I'm excited to meet you, and we're going to have a great year.
I love it. Your face just lights up when you think about your students, and I know they light up when you think about your parents too, so we're going to close with any sort of message for the parents of your students.
Just keep loving them, keep doing a great job. And support them, encourage them, be there for them when they fall and they stumble. We all will, but just keep doing a great job.
Michele Frantz, thank you so much for spending time with us today, and for your wisdom and for your expertise, and for sharing not just about teaching, but of you and the life lessons that you've learned, and that how important and impactful they are for the classroom and the community. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm Susan Salcido, Santa Barbara County Superintendent of Schools. Thank you so much for joining us today for this edition of Talking with Teachers.